G'day everyone, I hope you're doing really well. It's Taggy here and I'm back with another pathing tutorial. I've got two circles here. The one on the left is a normal way of creating a curved surface, and the one on the right is a new method which I'm really excited to show you, because if you've ever tried to create a curved path and then attach something like that, you get this sort of irritating distortion and you'll notice the curves don't really retain their shape very well. Well, with this method, we can create perfect circles that don't distort. And as you can see, that circle is retained really well. So if that's something that interests you, I encourage you to stick around and we'll go through how it's done. If we come into our path editor, you would be familiar with the stamp builder, but we only have squares, hexagons, octagons, and pentagons, and no circle stamp, which is frustrating. But we do have a rounding tool. So if I come in and round all this path, we get beautiful circles. Now that looks good, but the issue is when we start to take something like, let's say this hexagon, and place it down, no problem. But when we want to bring it in and combine different pieces, we get all sorts of weird shapes happening. Now, why is that? Well, the reason is inside this is still our original mesh structure from the hexagon. So even though it looks like a curve, it's just because it's applying a smoothing to the corners or the actual vertices of the mesh. And then you're getting different types of Bezier tension in the curves here, creating all sorts of weird shapes. And that's not really ideal, is it? So I've created a perfect circle stamp, a proper stamp that you can download from the workshop. And this, in comparison, works really well. Probably much more how you'd be hoping. So if I copy that and stamp it down, you'll notice that the curves are working really, really well. And it works for different sizes. So take this smaller guy here and place him down. And whether it's overlapping inside, it's not a problem. And so, yeah, while we don't have the proper circle stamp in the game, you can create these yourself and get the effect you want. And it's really nice in that, yeah, we can come in and even delete these and still retain that perfect curvature without that frustrating distortion that probably many of you have experienced already. So how did we do it? And I'll get into that now. And it's worth noting it works for circular paths that are natural paths, it works for pools, and the approach is quite cool. So let's have a look. Right, so if you've got a plaza like this one and you come in and you place a flat ride down, so I'll use the Chairplane, and then you delete that ride, I found that, yeah, it leaves a perfect circle, right? So you might have seen that. And obviously, because we don't have a circle stamp, I thought, oh, hang on, here's a template for a circle. And if we use the path tool and the stamp builder again, and make sure merges off, we can come in and just paste that in like so, and then select the pieces, and there's your stamp. And the reason this works is because that ride leaves a very fine mesh. So if we look at the edit tool, you can see the fidelity of the shape that was cut out. And if you try and replicate something like that with the draw tool, you're going to quickly discover that we're sort of limited by the tolerances of that. And then you're going to be in there editing points and all sorts of things, and it's just going to be fiddly. So we need a better method. But sure enough, if you want to create a circle stamp that's as big as a ride footprint, that's how you do it. Use the stamp tool. So I'll just show you that again. Grab the stamp builder, make sure it merges off, and just fill it in. And yep, you can come in, select those pieces, up that bit, and duplicate it, and yeah, stamp it down as much as you like, and it should retain its shape really well. And again, because that fidelity is built into the mesh, it's now carrying all the way through. So yeah, that's why you're getting the nice sharpness. It's not using the rounding. You could come in and round it, and because it's fine, it'll still retain it, and that'll give you a little bit more smoothness. But generally, you need to have the fidelity of the mesh to be able to use the rounding tool without it distorting the shape, because it's effectively smoothing between the 2 points that are very close to each other, and therefore, yeah, it's retaining itself. So to create a big stamp like that, you can, and then to create smaller stamps, we need a way to replicate that fidelity. So the drawing tool won't do it. So what I've found is if we, again, use a bit of a method for creating like path pixels and things. If I take a stamp like that and I copy it, and we turn on our snap distance, and I just give us about that much overlap, and then maybe something like this. What I've done is created a mesh like that. Now I can take a piece like that, and I can duplicate it with the rotate and start snapping it around. Okay, and what we're finding is this is going to create the fidelity in this curve that's probably not possible with the draw tool. Now it's not perfect, and it might create some weird shapes as we go, like so. But if you keep going around, you can probably overwrite that. And now we've got a fairly fine mesh. But the problem is you can see it's got all these individual pieces that we don't really want. And so that's where we use the method again to create a square stamp. Take this, we're going to move it into here. And now you've got that with all the little pieces. And if we delete that pieces and not the outside, get that little bit there. Now you've got yourself a stencil. And so going from this complicated shape into one giant piece is we get our stamp again, merge off and paste it down. And now I've got a perfect circle stamp. And it's one finite mesh. And if we have a look at this, you can see, yeah, it retains its curves quite nicely. So that's how you do it, and that's how I've created these various shapes over here in terms of this stencil. And this is available on the workshop for you to download, so you don't have to go and do that yourself. But if you want different sizes, you can create that. So this guy I think is a little bit bigger than that one. And yeah, you just create your little wedges and rotate them around until you get the shape you want. But the fidelity is in the ability to rotate pieces and overlap. That's how yeah, you get the fine mesh. Whereas with the draw tool, you can't do that. Just worth noting as well, you can't just paint nature path over top of a regular path. So if you want to create a natural path in a circle, you need to create your stencil and paint it in. And same with pools. You can use a pool stamp like this. So if I just stamp within there, now I can take out a piece of pool and place it down. And that can be really quite cool. The only thing is you can't stamp a piece of path on top of a pool. It'll just disappear. And so if you really want to create some nice circular islands, you can take smaller circles like so and place them down. And if you have a look at the mesh, there they are. You can then delete them. And if you want to place more path on top, you can come back to your path tool and yeah, paint it in. So let's go big. And that's how you can create some nice circular pool shapes that retain their shape without the distortion of the rounding tool. So if you try that with the other approach of rounding stamps, you'll be in for a world of hurt. And finally, guys, I just wanted to show you that there's no issue with pathfinding with this technique. And even though we've got lots of little circles here, because each shape is an entire mesh, it hasn't been made up of thousands of little wedges from the technique. Yeah, guests have no problems finding their way through this path. And yeah, it's certainly something that's feasible to be used within your bigger parks too. So yeah, thought that was worth showing. Quite cool. Well, thanks everyone. Hopefully you liked it. If you did, give us a like and please consider subscribing. It really helps me out. Hopefully you found it useful, and I will see you on the next one. Cheers.